The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all joining us here on this Wednesday evening, or if you're checking us out on one of your favorite places to catch podcasts. It is officially the second week in August, which means we have had the Hall of Fame game, which means NFL football is officially back, and that means it is time for one of Kelsey and I's favorite parts of every year, and that is the NFL predictions shows. It is DJ, joined as always by my co-host Kelsey. And Kelsey, going back to the dog days of when we first started, when they were 3-hour episodes all crammed into one, to where they are now, where we break it up over a month. This is one of our favorite times of the year, where we get to see how smart we are or how dumb we are, and a little bit of everything in between as we try and predict the NFL season ahead.
I gotta say, we haven't had so many dumb predictions since the 3-hour episodes ended. But yeah, we've had some bad predictions. I think it's safe to say we had some good predictions. Looking at you, Broncos, last year, just saying I did a pretty good job with them, and don't feel so bad. But I've had some bad, very, very, very bad ones as well.
The Colts definitely let us down, and the Rams legit let us both down last year. That's for sure as well. But the year before that too, I was lucky enough to get the Super Bowl winner and a couple others. So we've had a few here and there as well. So, and just like the year before, you were able to get the Super Bowl matchup. You just had the wrong winner in that one. So we've had some good, some bad, and some ugly in there. Yeah,
it's stereotypical. I mean, look, you know, you're the good. I don't know, somebody else is the bad. I obviously take up the ugly part. So it is what it is. We're accepting of it. It's the high, it's the low, it's everything in between.
Well, you know what? We're going right back at it again here today, and we're going to go and start with, you know what, probably two of the better divisions in football. We're going to start with the West. We're going to do the AFC and the NFC West today is what we're going to go through. We're going to go through each team. We're going to predict their records, talk a little bit about what we see. What we did, too, to make these picks is we used an NFL game predictor website. So we picked every single game of the season. So it's not like we just pulled numbers out of a hat. These are all numbers after every single game was played and on paper, which is, we obviously don't have to tell us games are on paper. You can leave that comment if you want, but we know that. But this is the most we could do right now. So we picked every single game through there. And these were the records that came out with it as well. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. We're going to start with the NFC West, a weirdly competitive division last year, but not quite the teams we thought about, from the 49ers being a juggernaut that won 11 in a row to end the season, the Seahawks surprising everybody, getting better after trading away Russell Wilson. We got the Rams, whose fall from grace was, oh my Lord. And then the Cardinals, who just couldn't quite get it going. They couldn't make it 3 in a row for a home team Super Bowl hosting. So those will be the three teams we're going to talk about today. And you know what, Kelsey, since last year I think you got to go first last time, I will go first this time. We're going to start with the NFC West. I'm going to work my way from the bottom to the top. So we're going to go and start with the Arizona Cardinals. I think you're going to bring up the rear of this division. After going through all the games, I think they're going to have a rough season. I have them going 2-15 as of right now. I have them with, spoiler alert, you could probably imagine one of the worst records in football at 2-15. Kyler Murray, we don't know when he's going to come back. And honestly, if I'm the Cardinals, I don't know if I really want him to play this year. If I'm looking at it, let's say he's not supposed to come back till mid-November and you're like 1-11 or something, I just say, you know what, Kyler, you're going to get paid. It's all good. Buda Baker might end up getting traded before the season. We'll have to wait for that as well, too. This team is rebuilding, new head coach, a lot of new young players, getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins. Depending on how the Texans finish next year, you're probably going to have 2 top 10 picks. And with the Caleb Williams and Drake May sweepstakes, plus some of those other quarterbacks like Penix, Spencer Rattler, etc., Quinn Ewers, if you want to keep Kyler and roll with Kyler, you got some really, really high value picks that you can leverage into setting up a ridiculous dynasty of picks moving forward. Or you have the opportunity to then trade Kyler next year. But that's something you're going to be worrying about in a year from now. Unfortunately, in the meantime, it's going to be rough for the Cardinals. I don't know who's going to take the snaps. I don't know who's going to run the ball. I don't really know who's going to catch the passes. I don't know who's going to block. I don't know who's going to. They have some good players, but they have some pretty good young players. I like taking Paris Johnson in the first round as a long-term pick. But I got a feeling 2023 is not going to be good for the Arizona faithful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tend to agree with you here. That doesn't make sense. It makes sense that Arizona finishes last. Obviously, you lose Kyler. It's a big hit. Not just that, but you lose D-Hop, potentially losing Buda Baker, as you mentioned. There's a whole lot going on in Arizona, and none of it seems good. So definitely understand your Cardinals pick there at number 4. So DJ, who's your number 3 here in the NFC West?
I'll also throw onto that too. Jonathan Gannon's first year coaching. I'm not sure how I feel about him as a head coach. He's not the option I made. So even if he is a good coach, that first year is going to be pretty rough going with how it is. And I think there's a lot to be desired in Arizona. We'll leave it at that. But we're now move on to third in the division. This is where I have the former defending Super Bowl champion, the Los Angeles Rams. They're going to be coming in here with a 7-10 record at third in the division. This one was tough because I think they are a good team. You got Aaron Donald, still an elite pass rusher. Cooper Kupp, still an elite receiver. Matthew Stafford, sometimes when he's healthy, really, really good still. You got really good players. I'm worried about Matthew Stafford and that neck injury. Like, that's not something I think is just going to disappear. So I think we're going to see Stetson Bennett play during this year. I really think we're going to see a good amount of Stetson Bennett. I don't know who's going to really carry the ball. I don't know too much about the running game. The offensive line still has some holes. They're not going to be as bad as last year. I think they're going to improve a lot from last year. But I do think there's still a lot of holes on the team. They haven't had a lot of picks because F them picks has been the mantra. They went all in on that Super Bowl run. They got it. But unfortunately, this is where I think it's going to get a little bit rough. They have some quality players and good coaching. They're going to win some games. Cooper Kupp's hamstring injury in the preseason does worry me. I know even if it's just a precaution, but I don't like receivers with those soft tissue injuries in the preseason. That causes them to miss time. So I can't imagine he's going to have yourself another Triple Crown receiving season. That being said, I got the Rams going 7-10, kind of a middle-ish of the pack team that's still really good, but I don't think they're going to annoy some teams. That's what they're going to be. They're going to be the team that annoys the playoff teams. They're going to randomly make things closer, take a pound of flesh, if you will. They're going to annoy the Seahawks, the Rams, the 49ers, all those other teams that they play. They're going to annoy them. So I got the Rams going 7-10, third in the division.
Yeah, I have not really much to add to that. I'm kind of surprised that you're not bringing up the running back situation there in the in Los Angeles as well, just because
I don't know who it's going to be.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, that's the problem is like who's actually going to take the snaps there as their starting running back. So a little generous to 7-10 considering we don't know what's going to be their situation at running back. I have to say, but yeah, I mean, I have no complaints there. Putting him at 3 seems pretty a safe spot for the former defending champions.
I think you'll have a healthy Stafford for a little bit. You'll have a healthy Cooper Kupp, a healthy Aaron Donald, plus Sean McVay. They'll find a way to win a few games. It's like, oh, good for them. But I don't see them contending, kind of like we mentioned too. But that's going to now take us to the top of the division here. The one that might get a little bit of surprise here is at the second division, I got the San Francisco 49ers. I have them going 11-6 next year. We all know top to bottom, one of the best rosters in the game. Kyle Shanahan is an absolute juggernaut when it comes to offensive play designing, putting plays together, offensive design, making life easy for quarterbacks. So much so that we saw Brock Purdy go undefeated as a starter up until an NFC Championship game when his elbow exploded. We saw them play 3 different quarterbacks last year, didn't miss a beat. They start with Trey Lance, plays a game and a half or a game and a quarter. Saw Jimmy G come in, picked up right where he left off. Then we saw Brock Purdy take over. Right now, Brock Purdy is the starter. He's pretty much locked in right now. It's his job to lose, which I don't even know how much he's going to play in the preseason, so he's not going to lose it anytime soon. Trey Lance and Sam Darnold seem to be fighting for that number 2 spot, as Sam Darnold's been looking really good, but so is Trey Lance. I do think we're going to see at least 2 quarterbacks play for this team this year, I think. Maybe even all 3 of them. I'm not saying that Brock Purdy's going to get hurt or he's going to stink, but it's the 49er way, basically, to see multiple quarterbacks play in a season. So I think we're going to see all of them. Trey Lance is going to still get some of his, like, where Kyle Shanahan uses him as a damn fullback, basically, which was a mistake at the start of last year. But so we're going to see some of that. I think this is where it's going to catch up to them a little bit. They're obviously still 11-6. They're still awesome. But I do think this quarterback carousel that they've been able to just work around the last few years, I think we'll see a little bit more bumps this year. So Deebo Samuel's awesome. George Kittle's awesome. Christian McCaffrey's awesome. Trent Williams is awesome. Nick Bosa, depending on how that holdout goes, he's awesome. I don't know. When does he come back? Does he come back 100%? We know how holdouts are always. They're very up in the air. Fred Warner's awesome. Tua Falonga's awesome. Like, they have so many awesome players, but at the same time, injuries are a thing for this team. And I really do kind of just worry if that quarterback situation is going to catch up. And as we've seen for the 49ers, they do tend to go up, 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 and then they take a dip, then they come right back up. They gave 2 back-to-back NFC Championship games. I think this is where we see them. Not going to say downslide, but I think they'll lose a few of those games where it's like, they should have won that game. Like last year when they lost to Denver. It's like, well, you should have won that game. I think we're going to see a couple more of those this year and that quarterback carousel. We'll see if it is a carousel this year, but I, of course, have my worries with how it's been. So I'm going to go with 11-6 for the 49ers. Still very, very good. Maybe not quite the 14-3 juggernaut everyone's expecting.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I got to say, I'm surprised a little bit with the 11-6 record here. But, yeah, I get it. Look, the Niners are what the Niners are. At the end of the day, they have a lot of talented individual pieces. It's just whether they can all stay healthy at the end of the day. I mean, that Levi Stadium's turning kind of into Meadowlands East in a lot of, or Meadowlands West in a lot of ways, with all those injuries taking place in the last couple of years. So we'll have to wait and see if they can stay healthy. But if they stay healthy, I definitely don't mind this putting them at number 2. That's for sure.
Not to mention they also have to play the AFC North, which is a very good division as well. They have their own division that can sometimes be tough. Plus, they play some teams like the Eagles as well. Like, they don't have an easy schedule by any means. So I think there's going to be some tough games in there for them. But as you'd imagine, there's only one team left to have at the top of the division. That's going to be the Seattle Seahawks, who I think they're going to take the NFC West this year. I think they're going to do it with a 14-3 record is how I had it playing out. So I have Seattle, as you could tell, being one of the better teams, not just in the NFC, but in the NFL as well, with 14 wins. This team is loaded when you look at it. They are absolutely loaded. Geno Smith ain't right back, and he took a quarterback-friendly deal as well, too. He's got his money, but he's not hamstringing the team at all. Kenneth Walker was outstanding last year. The concern is injury. He's dink-banged up right now. What do? You bring in Zach Charbonnet, who is basically like this year's Kenneth Walker on paper as a draft prospect, more or less. You have DK Metcalf, an absolute stud, who should have been on the NFL's top 100 list. You have Tyler Lockett, who's an absolute stud, who was on the NFL top 100 players list. And what do you do to that? You add Jackson Smith and Jigba, the ultimate complement to those two, to play in the slot. Coming off a full season of where he was injured, so now you know how healthy he is. We saw him during the draft combine we talked about on our episode after that. He's still got it. That route running is smooth as velvet on a velvet cake. He is in and out of breaks so quickly. You get throw quick screens to him. He is absolutely incredible in that role. If you double team DK Metcalf, put a safety over the top, who's going to guard Jackson Smith and Jigba? You're going to trust the safety to roll down and guard him. You're going to put a linebacker over him. Your nickel corner is going to deal with him with a two-way go. Good luck. You bring in an extra DB. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet is going to hand it off. Geno Smith, I think he was, 70% completion last year. That's very much along his games. You have 2 young guys that were rookie tackles last year with Cross, for example. They were good last year. Now you got another year on top of it. And haven't even got to the defense. Look at all the picks they had from that Russell Wilson trade this year. 2 first-round picks, including a top 5, multiple second-round picks. Devin Witherspoon, a guy we both had as a top 2 corner in this draft. Outstanding player to go along with Tariq Woolen, who led the NFL in interceptions last year. You got Quandre Diggs. Bobby Wagner is back. They are a loaded team across the board. Like, they're more. You can make a case they're more loaded than the 49ers top to bottom. The Niners have more of those elite players when you look at like Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams, etc. But player for player across the board, Seattle's absolutely jacked and loaded. I don't think Geno Smith was a one-off last year. Maybe he doesn't fully repeat that. Maybe he doesn't lead the league in completion percentage again. But with the team he has around him, if everyone stays reasonably healthy, I think he can very easily throw for 4K yards and 30-plus touchdowns. This team is absolutely loaded, and I think Pete Carroll's also, he's the type of guy who's got a little something to prove since that Russell Wilson situation. Last year wasn't enough. He's going to take another pound out of it as well, too. So give me the Seahawks going 14-3 and winning the NFC West if they stay healthy, because they are loaded.
I had to put my blue light on for the Seahawks for you, just to give a little bit of representation for the Seahawks. No, I agree with you. I think wholeheartedly there's an opportunity there for the Seahawks to perform, and I mean, we'll have to see what Geno can do. Does Geno, is it I ain't right back Geno, or is it, well, I got signed now, what am I going to do, Geno?
I wrote my name on that check, so I'm good now, Geno.
Yeah, like is he going to get nightmares of IK? I can never remember the guy's last name, who broke his jaw, his own teammate, or are we actually going to see high quality Geno? I do think there's a lot to be said about that, but it'd be very interesting going forward. I got to say, your NFC West, not too unlike what my potentially looks like, but there's a little difference in records there. But I do like, I got to say, I mean, I'm intrigued to see with what you have there in the NFC West, how close that ends up being the truth.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be very competitive as well, too. I think them and the 49ers are going to be head-to-head, especially early in the season. I think it's going to be some great battles as well. And, we didn't even mention Blitz Boy Jamal Adams, who they traded for as well, too, who, for his limitations in coverage and catching the ball, he can still be a game breaker in the box. And he didn't play last year because he was injured so early. So he's still going to be coming back as well. Bobby Wagner's back on that defense. They're going to get after the passer a lot better this year, I believe, as well. So I just think it's going to be a really good team. That secondary is going to be really good too. So I like the Seahawks a lot. I think they're going to cause a lot of havoc this year. So just to recap my NFC West predictions, bringing up the rear, we got the Cardinals at 2-15, the Rams at 7-10, the 49ers second in the division at 11-6, the Seattle Seahawks making some noise with a 14-3 record to win the NFC West. So this is what I have for the NFC West. I will see how it plays out, if I'm right, if I'm wrong, or if I'm just somewhere in the middle. But Kelsey, NFC West, you alluded to, there's some similarities, but some differences. So go and take it away. How do you see who's going to be the best in the West?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and just start it out right here at the bottom. Right with you, I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals, 2-15. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They get a couple lucky wins. They're not in their own division, by the way. They just happen to get them right out of division somehow. And look, it's hard to go winless, right? So teams can luck into wins in a lot of different ways. And the Cardinals, they don't know what they're going to be doing going forward, as we talked about when you no Kyler, potentially no Kyler all season. Honestly, it's going to be no Kyler long enough that it might as well be all season, because you're not curious to know what he can do on 2 games when the rest of your team is just trying to stay healthy. I don't care. You're going to sit the whole year at that point in time. If I'm anything to do with the Cardinals, I'm not hurting him. I'm giving Jonathan Gannon the absolute best chance to succeed going forward next season, because this is just a 1-year rental. This first year, I mean, this is a trial season just to see if you can even coach to begin with, not how good you can coach, just if you can coach for Gannon, and then we'll have to see what he's able to do. It's obviously not going to be great, and honestly, if they finish 4-13, we're sitting here looking like, oh my God, the Cardinals 4 wins, holy crap, how'd they pull that off? Like, it's going to be one of those seasons here. So yeah, I mean, Cardinals for me, sitting 4th in the division, just like you had them 2-15. So
it's just hard to find wins for them. And honestly, I feel like they want to be in that Caleb Williams, Drake May sweepstakes too. It's almost like Kyler, sit out. We have so many holes. If we win 5 games, it's a detriment. You're still a top 5 pick of that team. You got the Texans pick 2. You can end up with picks 1 and 2. The amount of things you could trade for that, if you believe in Kyler, imagine what the haul you can get for Caleb Williams, then the haul you can get for Drake May. That is 7 future first-round picks possibly, and some more. So honestly, I'm not saying I support tanking, but if I'm the Cardinals, it's like you might not even have to try tanking, but it might just play out perfectly for you. We'll be looking back at this in 4 years if the Cardinals go 2-15, like that saved their franchise, whether they draft Caleb Williams or they trade it for a haul.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree here. But that's taking me right at number 3 here for the NFC West. And for my 3rd place team in the NFC West, I'm not changing up the team, but I am a little less positive on them than you are, DJ. I'm going up with the Los Angeles Rams here at 5-12. Only 2 wins, by the way, coming against the Cardinals. So it's just going to just rub it in. But look, I am concerned. I am strongly concerned about Matthew Stafford. You didn't see anything from him last year when he did play. It wasn't great. You are very concerned about a neck. Anytime a quarterback has a neck injury, and especially a quarterback with as many injuries as somebody like Matt Stafford, and who has thinking about retirement. We all know my opinions on that. Is the moment a quarterback starts talking, or any NFL player starts talking about potential retirement in their career, the writing's on the wall. It's only a matter of time. I am very concerned about that for the Rams, and I am extremely concerned by them not having a running back, considering all the issues with Matthew Stafford. And when I say running back, I mean, what's going to happen in their running back core here? We don't know what the situation is. So yeah, it's a lot of question marks for me. A lot of question marks on defense as well. You lost Jalen, you lost Bobby, you lost everything other than Aaron Donald. Basically, is where you're at. So what are you going to do there? I think they still have Leonard Floyd, if I'm not mistaken. That's the only other pass rusher they really have. So yeah, Los Angeles Rams are very concerning for me. I have them at 5-12, and honestly, if they win 6 or 7 games, I'll be shocked, because I don't see it. I really don't, with the Rams, with their schedule, with everything they have to go up against, and the lack of firepower they have outside of Cooper Kupp. People know about Cooper Kupp now. It's a simple bracket, and I mean, I say a simple bracket. It's not really simple to bracket Cooper Kupp, but as far as a defensive scheme goes, you don't have a whole lot else to worry about if you're scheming a defense against that team. So it's really just, all right, shut off Cooper Kupp, and we'll see what we can do everything else. It's just a lot of concerns there. A lot of concerns defensively, especially in that secondary. I mean, even in the linebacking core, there's concern. So, yeah, Los Angeles Rams 5-12, and it's not going to be a pretty 5-12 by any means.
I kind of said it when we did the prediction a couple of years ago when I said they were going to win the Super Bowl. It was literally this is their all-in year, basically. They're going in to win it this year, and then after that, it kind of falls apart. And it's kind of what we saw happen, just a lot faster and deteriorated quicker than even we expected. I don't know. I don't even know what's going to I just don't know this team. It's like you mentioned, you double team Cooper Kupp. Who else scares you? Before you had Odell, now I don't know who you got. Like who's out there?
I mean,
no Bobby
Van
Trees.
Jefferson.
Okay, like we saw that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
Like,
Like, okay,
he's good, but he's not terrifying anybody. It's like, all right, Stetson Bennett threw to Van Jefferson 12 times. Like, we'll take our chances with that.
It's not going to be good. Very concerning from a lot of different standpoints there, but yeah, I don't know. I'm concerned for the Rams. Sean McVay. I'm not gonna say writing's on the wall for you on this one, and I left him out of my coaches on anybody on the hot seat because he's not. Like, he's been to 2 Super Bowls and 7 years of coaching, so not a terrible record there by any means. Stafford won his Super Bowl, so that's not concerning. So I just think this team has nothing to really play for. I don't think they have enough to try to battle through a 17-game grinding season, 18-game grinding or 18-week grinding season. It's just going to be a tough one to watch for the Rams. So yeah, Rams 5-12, third in the division, just ahead of the Arizona Cardinals at 2-15. That'll take me to the team in second place here. And again, not changing the team by any means from DJ's, because I do agree with a lot of his assessment. I just disagree with the ranking. He's a lot happier and nicer to these teams than I am. I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers here at 9-8. And the biggest reason I have him at 9-8 is who's going to play quarterback. Do you think Brock Purdy really comes back in week 1 and is successful? You're crazy. You're absolutely out of your mind. The biggest reason he was successful last year was because nobody had tape on him. And what happened when teams found tape on him? They had to come up with some of the craziest plays I have ever seen in my life to make things work. And they barely did that. And then when he was done, they had nothing. They literally had nothing in the tank. Obviously, you don't plan on losing 2 quarterbacks in a playoff game, but you did. It happened. You still don't know what you have in Trey Lance. Reports don't like what you have in Trey Lance. You have Sam Darnold, and I don't think we're going to recapture the once was Southern California darling that is Sam Darnold. You might get a little bit of quality time out of him, although Blaine Gabbert a couple years ago. I don't see it sticking long term. I see you guys getting 9 wins, and most of that's going to be down to Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel out here just doing their thing, and George Kittle leading the way in blocking, and Trent Williams leading the way with blocking, and Kyle Juszczyk leading the way in blocking. You're going to have a 3-man wall, and then you're going to have everybody else falling behind them. That seems to be the plan, and honestly, it probably does end up working. Chris McCaffrey might even be QB2 at this point in time. And you might still be successful with him at QB2. I don't know. Maybe you might be more successful with him as QB2. I don't trust Brock Purdy going forward. In his career, and I'm not talking NFL, I'm talking his entire career, so going back to college, in his 4.5, 5 years at Iowa State, the guy couldn't stay consistent for the life of him. He would go out one game, throw 5 touchdowns. Go out the next game, throw 5 interceptions. And we're not talking about these great defenses. We're talking about defenses. So yeah, I'm gonna go 49ers here, 9-8. Their defense is still fantastic. There's no question. That's why they're going to be in a lot of these games, no matter what. I just don't think there's enough there, unless the defense gets takeaways and turns themselves into that opportunistic takeaway scoring defense and leads the league in scoring, that they're going to break a 10-win season. I think 10 wins is the cap for this team. 9-8 is where I have them sitting at.
What's interesting is they have 3 quarterbacks, and we don't know there's the jury's still kind of out on 3 of them. It's not like one guy, he is what they are, because Sam Darnold, we've seen a lot of him. He's been around for 5 years, but he's still only 25, 26 years old. And can't really hold him accountable for having Adam Gase as your head coach for a few of those years. Like, that's not fair. That's what we talked about Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer. That's going to set you back no matter what. Like that, you're not held liable for that. Then going to the trash heap that was the Panthers and then getting hurt. So for all we know, Sam Darnold, maybe there's like a such thing as California Sam Darnold, kind of like there was California Robert Woods. Maybe if he gets his opportunity, he lights it up and looks like that USC kid that everyone fell in love with after his sophomore year. Trey Lance, as you mentioned, we have 3 starts, maybe something like that, and 2 of them he got hurt in, because the one is rookie year where he had the knee injury, then last year where he broke his leg in his second start. And then Brock Purdy, as you mentioned, we saw a great 7-game stretch where everything kind of went right. Maybe that is just kind of how his career is going to be. When things go right, he's really good. We don't know. The jury's just still out on 3 of them. So for all we know, They could be 9-8, like you mentioned, where we don't know. Or one of them could end up being like Sam Darnold might have a random resurgence and they go 14-3 or something ridiculous. Or Trey Lance is that dude. And 3 years and not even 20 total starts between NFL and college, we see he ends up being that dude. Like it is such a weird enigma at that position. And when you look at the rest of their team, it's, oh my goodness, if only they could figure this one spot out. They're like the Colts have been the last 4 years, but cranked up to 11.
Realistically, yeah. I mean, look, you don't just have one of the highest paid running back in the league, and then he's not a slouch. He does everything. He runs, he blocks, he'll throw you a touchdown, he'll catch a touchdown out of the backfield, he'll return a kickoff for a touchdown, return a punt return for a touchdown. Then you have Debo, who is also just running back extended. I mean, you have all these great hybrid talents. I'm not even counting George Kittle, because George Kittle in his own right is a hybrid talent, and what I mean that is he will catch and score and run over everybody, but he is more than happy to put his head down and just go bowl over everybody in the way to lead the way for somebody like Christian McCaffrey, or even Trey Lance if Trey Lance is on the field, or any one of those guys. I think this team is probably the highest upside here as far as where I think their prediction could end up. I mean, I might be wrong with 9-8 and they go 14-3. I mean, that's how I see this team, because their defense is so strong, and I don't have any concerns of their defense. Realistically, I just don't. Like their defense, as long as it's healthy, I have no concerns on their defense. Bosa is probably the only concern, and that's just, can he stay healthy for a whole season? Because he's obviously had a lot of knocks during his career. But on the flip side, I think this offense is a little more concerning, and it really just comes down to that center, and that center of the heart of your offense, which is your quarterback. Like if you can figure out that position, everything else is going to figure itself out. But I also do think they have the lowest floor. I think this team could plummet very quickly if injuries and everything else come calling. It's a quick drop to the end of the elevator shaft, if you will, for this team. So
absolutely, they could be like we saw the last couple of years, or they could dip it like they were when they were able to get Nick Bosa coming off. They were in the Super Bowl the next year, or they were number 2 overall pick, then into the Super Bowl, then missed the playoffs. So where they got drafted Trey Lance. So it could go any way, any different direction of this team. But looks like that's going to take us to number 1. And for us, we're looking awfully similar here at the top.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm right here with you. Seattle Seahawks, my number 1 team. You went 14-3. I'm 13-4. Granted, 5 of these wins do come in the division. So take those 5 wins away, and you're looking at an 8-4 team for the rest of the season. So it's still a really good team, but it's not perfect. Seahawks, the big thing is, can we get consistent, calm, concise Geno? That's my big concern for this team. And honestly, you need a running game. You did it last year with Kenneth Walker giving you absolute greatness for a rookie running back, and all things considered. Like, I mean, absolutely did his job. In between him and every other running back you threw out in the first 6 weeks of the season, they did what they had to do. But also, I feel like Geno, the one thing Geno did is he has a lot of teammates now with chips on their shoulders, but they had a great season last year. Are those chips still existing? I'm looking at you, Noah Fant. Is that chip still existing on your shoulder? You got traded for chump change basically last year. I know you're going to be part of the Russell Wilson trade, but you were a throw-in. Really, that's like, and you showed out last year. You showed why you deserve to be a starting tight end in the league. You talk about this defense. Jamal Adams not playing all last season. Will he come back with a chip on his shoulder and be that dude? Be Mr. Blitzball. Be the guy that gets hit in the face mask with a pick, but actually pick it off this time. Like, can we get that? Can we get that El Presidente for once? And then yes, I pulled out his old Jets nickname just for that one. I need to see something for Jamal Adams. The return of Bobby Wagner, I think, is underrated in a lot of ways. I think Bobby going back to this team is huge for that team. Not just for that defense's identity, but I also think for my senior Super Bowl winning middle linebacker, he is a absolute stud, and he will provide a veteran presence that not very many players that were out on the market could do, realistically. It's home for him, but it doesn't matter. I think this is a situation where he is just going to come back. He's going to ball out of his mind. You're going to see Bobby Wagner really kind of fully healthy for the first time in last 5-6 seasons, it feels like. And with him double teaming on that blitz as well, with Jamal Adams on the other side, you have both of them coming down. You can drop one into coverage, surprise a team here and there. get a couple of easy interceptions, and walk your way to a victory on defense just alone. So I think there's a lot there. And then you mentioned Quandre Diggs on the backside of things. If there's a mistake, it's all up the Troy Polamalu era in Pittsburgh. If there's a mistake from Polamalu, there was always somebody to cover him in the secondary. There's a mistake from Jamal Adams in this blitzing situation, in the blitzing scheme. He blows a coverage. Don't worry, there's Quandre Diggs back there. He's okay. Like, it'll be okay. He's the better Diggs out of all the Diggs in the secondary in the NFL. So, you know, there's only two of them, just so everybody knows. But yeah, no, I think if you're the Seahawks, you have an absolute opportunity here at 13-4 to really dominate, really showcase yourself. Pete Carroll will absolutely have a ball. I talked about maybe him retiring last year because it would be such a rough season. I take it all back. I think this is one that he's going to have a good time here in Seattle this year. And as long as everybody can stay healthy, I think we see a resurgence of DK. I think we see that Tyler Lockett we once saw. And you mentioned Jackson Smith-Njigba. Remember how good Doug Baldwin was with the Seattle offense? And Doug Baldwin had half this level of skills as Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now you're going to get out a guy who runs routes, can run like the wind, and can snag a ball out of midair like nobody's business. I'm excited. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting wide receiving corps to watch. It might be a situation where we have three guys at one point in time in the season approaching 500 yards each, if not even higher. I mean, this could be a team where you see three guys at 700 plus easily.
Maybe 3,000s, honestly.
Yeah, I don't want to say it, but yeah, you absolutely could see three 1,000-yard receivers.
Chunks, and maybe Jackson gets like 80 catches to get it there. You never know. Never know.
Yeah, but that's just it. Yeah, DK would 100% get it in chunks, just the way he plays. He's so explosive. I mean, as long as he's healthy, I don't think as long as he keeps his head on too. I think that's the big thing from last year that you really learned about DK. It's just you got to keep your head on straight. You got to be able to play through all 48 minutes. You can't just get ejected halfway through a game and think it's okay anymore. So that'll be a big concern, a big thing going forward for him. But yeah, I think the Seahawks team is going to be exciting and fun to watch in the NFC West. I think this NFC West as a whole is going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be very exciting. I think it's going to be very ugly, but I do think there's some pieces of it that'll be very interesting to watch nonetheless. So just to recap it from bottom to top, my top four in the NFC West. Well, there's only 4 teams, but starting at number 4, Arizona Cardinals 2-15, the Los Angeles Rams at 5-12, San Francisco 49ers at 9-8, taking up second in the division, and the Seattle Seahawks taking the top spot in the division at 13-4. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Obviously, probably going to be a lot. People don't like my picks for some reason, even though I usually pick those pretty close to what you do, but somehow my picks get all the heat. I'll never understand it.
They're just wrong enough. But this year we got something new that we're breaking out too. This is called the fan vote that we're going to do this year as well too, where we have an anonymous fan vote for it to kind of go against our predictions as well too. And I'm going to give you a look at what ours looks like. And it's going to be a lot different than ours. So here's the look for the fan vote. They got the Seahawks at 4-13. Cardinals at 5-12, the Rams at 8-9 second, and the 49ers at 8-9 taking the division in a tightly contested one. So the fan vote, pretty much polar opposite of ours. So it'll be very interesting to see if we're the right ones there or if they're the right ones.
I want to know where they got all these wins for the Cardinals.
That's a fair
6 wins for the Cardinals. Can we pull that back up?
Oh yeah, let's go and bring that back up because at 5 it was 5 for the Cardinals.
5 wins for the Cardinals.
That's more than you and I had for them combined. So it'll be interesting.
I jokingly said 4 wins for the Cardinals would be shocking. 5 wins, I might have a heart attack, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what's going to happen is we're going to see them hit that 3rd win, and we're going to go sprinting out. It's sprinting back to this is going to be what we look like. For those of you that were watching on the cast, you saw torpedo. That's what we're going to end up doing. Is if the Cardinals hit that 3-4 win spot, we're going to be running back to delete our Cardinals picks because I don't have too much high hopes from them compared to the fan vote.
No, I have very little high hopes for the Cardinals. So that's surprising. But all right. So our mystery fan out there, very interesting picks. I must say they must have had a good time with this one.
Either way, speed of good times. That's not going to take us to the AFC West, where I imagine things are going to be a little more homeostasis for us as well, too. As Kansas City's won this one for more than half of a decade now. They've since 2015, when the Broncos last won a Super Bowl, and everything since then has been Kansas City, with a little bit of sprinkles of wild cards from the others. So, will they continue that trend? We'll go have to wait and see, but I'll go
find out on the next episode of Dragon Ball. I'm just kidding. No, we're not.
Find out here in about 3 minutes. But I'll tell you who's not going to win the division. That's who I have pulling up the rear here, and that will be the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're going to finish in the cellar of this division, and I think it's going to be a 3-14 record. They are going to be Indy, Caleb Williams, and Drake May, Quinn Ewers sweepstakes. Jimmy Garoppolo is your guy, but how healthy is he? There were issues with his physical. He seems to be good to go now. How long will he stay healthy? We've gone over this. Josh McDaniels as the head coach. Didn't like it last year. Don't like it this year. Didn't like it in the past. Don't like it now. Don't like it in the future. Josh Jacobs, that situation is still playing out. That's arguably one of your best players. That not good look. Devontae Adams, do we really think he's not going to demand a trade if this continues? And I mean, does he really want to say that? Your defense is Max Crosby and a bunch of other guys you hope can do some things. So we're going to have the Las Vegas Raiders at the bottom sitting at 3-14. Pretty much in the race for that number 1 pick. They need to rebuild. They need to reload. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh McDaniels doesn't finish the season, honestly. I think that was a mistake hire. You went from a wild card team to a bad team that got rid of their franchise quarterback to where we are now. So for the Raiders, I can't see a scenario where it's pretty. I know Jimmy Garoppolo has an all-time winning percentage, but I don't know. I just don't see it, especially if they're not going to pay Josh Jacobs. So we're going to go 3-14 for the Raiders. I think it's going to be a bit of a shaky season for them. Pay
that man. I agree wholeheartedly with you. Las Vegas Raiders probably going to be a struggle in the desert for this team. So I'm going to leave it at that with that one.
Absolutely. And speaking of struggles, we're going to go to the third place team is a team that struggled even worse last year, but I think is going to get a little bit of their footing. We got the Denver Broncos sitting at third place in the division. I got them going 7-10. So it's not going to be as catastrophic as last year. I do think bringing in Sean Payton, having another year, I think that'll help them just a little bit. Not a whole lot, but I think it'll help them be more competitive in games, but you're not better than the other 2 teams in this division. The other teams that you're going to play, there's still a lot of holes defensively. They're outstanding. Patrick Surtain, the PS2 himself, is arguably the best corner in the game. Justin Simmons, incredible safety. You got a good pass rush even after trading Bradley Chubb last year. They have a lot of really good players defensively. Offensively, you just lost Tim Patrick again in the preseason or in training camp. KJ Hamler looks like they let him go with his heart issue he's going through as well. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton both were apparently on the trade block in the offseason, or they were listing but not willing to do it. We'll see when Javonte is able to get healthy too. So there's a lot of question marks. They did some good jobs building the offensive line. I don't know about Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. I still don't know about that. I know Sean Payton was outstanding with a generational short quarterback in Drew Brees, but they may be a similar height but not a play style. So I'm gonna say the Broncos can get 7-10 with some good talent, but I just can't see them being competitive in this division, honestly. The other 2 teams I'm going to talk about in a moment, I think, are clearly head and shoulders better.
Yeah, I mean, look, you mentioned it. Russell being the guy who he is, I think it comes down to how well Russell pays attention and listens to Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton has the ability to coach Russell and make him that dude that Russell thinks he is, because Russell's not that dude right now. Like, this is not playmaker. R3 doesn't exist. He's not that dude that he puts on his shoes. He is very much Russell Wilson. That is who he is. He is just that. He is a game manager at best. And so he needs things like Javonte Williams. He needs things like, quick slot receiver like a Jerry Jeudy. He needs a big target on the outside like Cortland Sutton. He needs a big explosive target like Tim Patrick to succeed. Unfortunately, one of those things isn't going to be there this season again, and it's devastating. I hate to see it because Tim Patrick was well on his way 2 seasons back-to-back, having fantastic years there, and then major injury both preseasons here, and was looking like a huge target for Russell going in this preseason. So tough to see that one. The defense, though, does look good for the Broncos. But, yeah, you do have a lot of questions nonetheless going forward. So I agree with your Broncos pick here at 7-10.
Absolutely. Next, that's going to take me to number 2 in the division. I got the Los Angeles, should be San Diego Chargers at 10-7. Justin Herbert, the newly minted highest paid player in the NFL. I think early in the season, he's going to come out bombs away with the new Kellen Moore offense. Quentin Johnson to go with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. When they're healthy, I think this offense is going to be incredible. Problem is they're not going to stay healthy very long because this franchise is snake bitten, and those receivers, unfortunately, have a little bit of injury concern. So I think Quentin Johnson's going to, if he can stay healthy, he's going to be outstanding, especially when Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, unfortunately, misses some time. I think they're going to be explosive. They're going to be fun. They're going to lose some games they should win because Brandon Staley is going to do some dumb stuff as a coach like he tends to do, like going for it on 4th and 19 or something ridiculous. Sometimes Herbert gets a little robotic, and I think that costs him a little bit. Kellen Moore gets a little greedy. Injuries. So 10-7 feels like a good spot for them, kind of like what they were last year, but a lot more explosive instead of having to throw checkdowns every play. So they're going to be fun. Give me the Chargers 10-7 competing for a wild card spot.
I like it. I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with what you just said. Maybe our AFC West and NFC West are not going to be too different. It is what it looks like here. Maybe ranking, obviously, game-wise, but it's going to be different. But, yeah, I mean, I think the Chargers here are, at number 2 in the division. I think it's a pretty safe bet. Everybody else seems to be pretty rough, snake-bitten. I know the Chargers are still snake-bitten, but you hit the nail on the head. It's all down to health for this Chargers team. If they can stay healthy, there's a lot this team could do. If they don't stay healthy, there's a lot this team could do negatively. So it'll be very interesting to see if they can stay healthy or not. So
if they can stay moderately healthy, I think Justin Herbert can make a case for MVP because I think they have a lot of weapons that fit what he does. And bringing in Quinn Johnson, you finally have a fast guy to utilize his down the field arm strength. You finally have someone that can run underneath it or run up and go get it. Instead of just Mike Williams dunking on people, you finally have some speed out there in the receiving core. And I think I think we're going to see a lot of that this year. So that we're going to Chargers at 10-7. And of course, that's going to leave us at number 1. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We got the Kansas City Chiefs. I got them going 14-3. I think they'll win a lot of games. They'll lose a couple here or there. They're going to go undefeated in their division. Not undefeated in their division. I have them going 5-1 in the division. I think the Chargers might catch them just one game. Chiefs are they're the Chiefs. They're the juggernaut right now. Best player in the game and best quarterback in the game. Arguably the best coach right now. Best tight end and one of the 5 best defensive players when he's out there. There's not a whole lot of weaknesses in this team. They're outstanding. Kansas City 14-3, not a whole lot else to say. Defending Super Bowl champs, and they're not going to miss a beat.
Hard to argue with that. It's a pretty safe case there that you made for all parts of that. I'm sure we'll talk about the Chiefs a little bit more when I talk about them. But yeah, I think your point for the Chiefs here is pretty well taken. I do think the Chiefs are a strong team, and it's going to be hard to really see them lose out easily, I think is the best way to put it.
Absolutely. So just quickly recapping the AFC West from the Raiders at the bottom at 3-14, the Broncos at the 3rd place sitting at 7-10, Chargers at 2nd place 10-7, and then we got the Chiefs running away the division at 14-3. So that's going to be what I have for the AFC West. Kelsey, there's tough one to follow that up because it sounds like you might be having the Chiefs not winning the division. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But Kelsey, go ahead and take it away for the AFC West.
I will take it away for the AFC West. Coming in at number 4, the Kansas. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's going to be Las Vegas Raiders. Let's not even play ourselves here. 2-15. I'm not that much of a hater. I am a hater, but I'm not that much of a hater. I do love me some Patty and Travis Kelce, but I couldn't even jokingly put them at 4th because right now the Raiders are the joke. It's almost like the SNL thing where they can't make fun of something because it's just real life is funnier than what I could possibly make fun of. That's kind of how it is for this Raiders team. The irony is not lost on me that Devontae Adams could end up back with Aaron Rodgers in New York by the end of the season. It would be absolutely horrifying to see, but yet at the same time, well, things happen. People move on.
I got some records to change. If you're telling me he has Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, now I'm going to have to go back and change some of these when we talk about the AFC East.
I'm just saying, man, hey, look, at this point in time, Devontae just has nothing to hold him here in Las Vegas. You talk about trading Hunter Renfrow too. Like, come on. Really now, Vegas? Like, what are you doing? You already traded Darren Waller. Like, I don't like it. I don't like anything that's happening right now. If you want Jimmy G to succeed, you need to have weapons. He succeeded with a tight end weapon in San Francisco. Well, and here's what you did. You're trusting Fabian Moreau more than Darren Waller. Does anybody know Fabian Moreau? Has anybody seen him? Has anybody actually seen or imagined what he plays like or looks like or what number he even wears? Can anybody tell me any of those things if you're not a Raider? Because if you can, I'm going to call you a liar. You probably looked it up on Google because right now, very few people know about Fabian Moreau. And that's going to stay that way while you watch this Raiders team play. That's just what it is. I mean, you're going to be handing the ball off to Josh Jacobs. You're going to be still trying to throw the ball to Hunter Renfrow, and you're still going to be trying to throw the ball to Devontae. But you have no offensive line. You have no real quarterback out there. I don't even know if you can trust Jimmy. Your defense is it's going to be nice and call you Swiss cheese. You have Max Crosby. Yay. Isaac Rochelle. Great for TikTok.
Tyree Wilson, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see about Tyree Wilson. We don't know what's going to happen there. You haven't had a first-round pick stay in your team longer than 2 years at this point in time in the last, 7 years, 8 years of drafts?
I don't. It's been a long going since we could see a first-round pick still on the Raiders.
Yeah, so Raiders for me, they're taking up 4th place here, 2-15 in the AFC West.
I don't got too much to add to that. We both think they're probably going to stink unless Jimmy Garoppolo can somehow just always find ways to win and stay healthy. But I'm having a tough time seeing it. So not a whole lot to add here. Raiders it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's awful. But that'll take me to number 3 here in the AFC West. And just like DJ, actually to a T, I have the Denver Broncos. Surprising nobody here. My haterade is still flowing with orange and blue. It is not the orange and blue of Auburn. It is the orange and blue of Colorado, the Denver Crush, if you will. I don't trust him. I don't trust that Russell can get his ego out of the way at the end of the day. But I do think that this could be a team, if fully healthy, could have been a contender. Could have been, I could have been a contender. But yeah, this is not the case here. This is not going to be pretty for the Broncos yet again. I think Tim Patrick is the key for Russell Wilson to really unlock himself in Denver. I think his defense is okay. I don't think it's going to be bad by any means, but I think it's okay. It'll win you some games. It's just not going to lose you any. The problem is your offense isn't going to win you very many more. And I think that's probably the concern here. You 7-8 wins maybe. You might get lucky and break 500 and get a 9th win. I just don't see it to be honest. And it's tough for Sean Payton to return to this, but this is what he has to start with, and he'll have to make it work. Much like he did with Aaron Brooks in Denver, in New Orleans his first year. So we'll have to wait and see there. But yeah, Denver Broncos 7-10 and number 3 in the AFC West.
And unfortunately, if you can't make it work this year, well, you don't have a whole lot of picks to change anything. So you're gonna have to try and make it work the next year. And this is not the division to have to try and do this much. Maybe they can flip everything around, but you're going to need Russell Wilson from 3 years ago, not just the year before. So it's going to be a tough ask. Very few quarterbacks have a resurgent year after they're 32 years old. Very rarely do they dip and then resurge like that when or return to form. So it's going to be tough for Denver. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. Also, he has another child on the way with Sierra, by the way. And if you've seen anything, quarterbacks who have children on the way don't seem to do very well in their season until that child is born. So, well, hopefully that's not the case for Russell. Hopefully he can figure it out. You do hope he does figure it out eventually. But that'll take me to number 2 in the division. And this is where things get a little funky. Number 2 in the division for me is the Kansas City Chiefs. And, this is where, like I said, this is where it gets funky, DJ. Just be prepared. The Kansas City Chiefs finished 2nd in the division at 14-3. They finished 2nd in the division because they go 4-2 in the division, losing once to the Chargers and once to the Broncos. Yeah. You saw it here. It's a surprise to me too. I was just going through doing my pick'ems, and this is how it shook out. Like I said, I love me some Patty. I love me some Andy Reid. I love me some Travis Kelce. I love me some Chris Jones. I think this team is just very talented. I think they can be got, though. I do think there are some holes in this team, and one of those holes just so happens to be something that the Chargers are very good at, which is somebody go up and get it over top of your shorter corners, then somebody to burn your corners down the sideline. And somebody to put your corners or linebacker in a blender and beat them over the middle. Just so happens that the Chargers have 3 weapons that can do all 3 of those things at any given point in time. Maybe Quentin Johnson not as much with the blender part of it, but he can definitely outrun anybody and can go moss on anybody else. And let's not forget Austin Eckler has a chip on his shoulder now because he's trying to go get paid at the end of this season as well. But yeah, Kansas City Chiefs 14-3. Like I said, surprised me that a team that's 14-3 don't win their division. but they don't win their division. So the Chiefs take second here in the AFC West. GJ, how do you feel about that?
I'm going to let you go and say what you have to say about the Chargers. I'm going to respond to both of them because I need to see. I have more questions, and I just need to see the entire story. So I'm going to let you just continue on now.
All right, so that does take me to number one, and as I talked about, the Los Angeles Chargers are the team that take number one in the division. Again, also 14-3. The difference being in division record, they go 6-0 in the division. So actually, just kidding, they beat the Chiefs twice, and they were the only team to beat the Chiefs. But yeah, they that's how the Chiefs end up losing to the Chargers here, 6-0. I do think this is a situation where you see Justin Herbert mesh very well with his brand new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is going to air it out much like he tried to do with Dak, but the difference is Dak sometimes hesitated. Justin Herbert has no hesitation in pulling the trigger. Justin Herbert is told, hey, that guy's open if he has an inch of space. That's all Justin Herbert needs to hear to throw a ball. I mean, he has the arm. He has the talent. He knows he doesn't have a great offensive line. It's good enough. It's not great, though. And that's the key here is it's going to be good enough but not great. He's going to bend but don't break in a lot of situations, and he's going to be helped out by this new addition, obviously, in Quentin Johnson. But I think you're going to get, for the first time in Justin Herbert's career, I think we're finally going to get a healthy receiving core. And I've asked for this the last 3 years, and I feel like third time's the charm here. I'm just going to keep asking for it. Healthy receiving core for Justin Herbert. I think it's finally going to happen. I think Austin Eckler is going to continue what he's doing, being an absolute dual threat monster. He's a threat both ways. And let's not forget this defense is an absolutely star-studded defense as well. You have a Bosa in there. You have two young, talented corners. You have a safety who, by the way, didn't have the greatest season last year, is ready for a bounce back. And
still the best safety in the game, arguably, too.
Yeah, you have a lot of talent on this team, and it's just a matter of getting them on the same page and really just staying healthy. And if your head coach can stay out of the way, you can be a very successful team. And that's what I think happens here. I think he actually takes a step back, doesn't try to make all these extra decisions, gives his team the opportunity to go out there and play. And I think that's where you see this team taking 14-3 to the bank. 6-0 in the division. That's the difference between them and the Kansas City Chiefs at number 2. Also at 14-3, but 4-2 in the division.
So what you're saying is the last game of the year for both teams is going to be, in this case, it'll be the 13-3 Chargers taking on the 14-2 Kansas City Chiefs. And the Chargers are going to, so that one's probably going to be your Sunday primetime game, most likely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one other question on top of this as well, too. Who do you think is going to have the better season, Justin Herbert or Patrick Mahomes? We'll go statistically speaking.
I think statistically speaking, I think it should be Justin Herbert. All things, if healthy, his receiving core and running back is built for his talents. I do think he'd be putting up close to 5,000 plus yards, like 5,500 yards. I think we could approach.
5,500. You think he's breaking records? Then we're getting close.
I think there's a potential. I think you look at this receiving core. It's a potential receiving core that could do it. I'm not going to say he has the receiving core a la Steve Young 49ers with J.J. Stokes, Jerry Rice, T. Owens, but on paper, he has something that is not Jerry Rice, but really good right now in the league. But he has something better than J.J. Stokes, and he has something better than that rookie T.O. I think that's where he's at right now. So I think there's a potential there that this receiving core, if healthy and everything makes a transition like it should, that Quentin Johnson makes that transition like he should, I think there's a lot of opportunity. And I think the biggest part of this thing that makes it an opportunity is Austin Eckler. I think Austin Eckler being who he is and being the talent that he is, I think that's a huge part of this game going forward. And as long as Austin Eckler can stay healthy along with Justin Herbert and, Mike Williams, I think Mike Williams is the key. Again, I said it last year. I'm going to say it again. I think Mike Williams is the key. If he can stay healthy from that receiving core, it's a huge boon for that team. I think it's big for Justin Herbert to have that ability. So, yeah, I'm going to say, I think he could break records. I think he could beat Patty head-to-head in the season as far as statistics go as well.
I will say one thing I want to see from them, all that too, is I want to see them to be able to run the ball when they're ahead. We saw it in that playoff game. They could not run the ball, so they ended up showing. So I know Austin Eckler's incredible, but he's not really a guy you hand the ball off to kill the game with too often. I hope they could kind of find that somewhere on the roster, or Eckler becomes that guy. I think that will help them be able to do this, especially in those Kansas City games. We saw Kansas City come back on them last year in one of their head-to-head games because they weren't always the best at killing the clock. But that is interesting. I do love the Chargers offense. I love that receiving core. I think Justin Herbert, if they can stay healthy, is going to be electric. But the Kansas City Chiefs' reign at the top of the West comes to an end via tiebreaker in 2023. So an 8-year AFC West title run coming to an end, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what I have it as finally. But somebody has to break the streak, right? It just can't go on forever. But yeah, just to recap, everybody, I have the Las Vegas Raiders taking fourth in the AFC West at 2-15. The Denver Broncos 7-10 in third place. Kansas City Chiefs taking up second place, not by much, at 14-3. A 4-2 divisional record is the reason why they're in second place. And the number one team in the West, the Los Angeles Chargers, also at 14-3, but 6-0 in the division, which is what puts them in that first place because of tiebreaker over the Chiefs. So yeah, that's where I got it. And again, let us know what we got right. Let us know what we got wrong. I mean, again, this is going to be one I know I'm going to take some heat for. I'm okay with it. I'm accepting of the fact that this is going to be some smoke coming my way. I'm ready for it. I got my smoke detector. I got my fire extinguisher. I'm good to go. I got a fan next door to me as well. I mean, I got a lightsaber if they really want to get funky. We can have some fun with this one. But no, I think that it's going to be interesting to see going forward for sure.
And if at any point the Chargers ended up like 1-4 to start the season, we got a live look at Kelsey running away from all of that smoke. You see Kelsey turning on those afterburners once that smoke starts coming. If the Chargers start 1-4, getting a little bit rusty.
It's just going to be this simple. I'm just going to go boop.
Just going to disappear to the night. But as we mentioned earlier too, we do have a fan vote for you this one as well too. We're going to pop up the fan vote here now, and looks a little more similar to mine than it does to Kelsey's on this one. As they have the Raiders at 3-14 as well. They have the Broncos at 4-13, another miserable season in the Russell Wilson experiment. The Chargers at 11-6, and Kansas City at 14-3. So the fan vote for the AFC West a little closer to mine, and yours a little bit more as compared to the NFC West. So looks like we're.
Look, I mean, the fan vote at least knows that the Chargers are at least going to get a double-digit this season as well. So thank goodness they got that right at least. I'm still more concerned about their NFC West though. That was a concerning division. But yeah, I think they have probably a better head on their shoulders for the AFC West than I do. Maybe I'm a little biased. I'm just hoping for the best out of the powder blue and old gold, athletic gold, if you will. Chargers. I don't know, man. I just want them to do something for once.
If they can stay healthy, I think they can make your prediction a lot more realistic than people think. If they can stay reasonably healthy and Brandon Staley stays out of the way, doesn't get too greedy or too stupid, just reel it back in a little bit, I think they'll be okay. But that's what we have here for the AFC and the NFC West predictions. This is just the first of many of them. Next week, we got the AFC and NFC East, which is definitely going to be one you want to tune into because that includes Kelsey's Cowboys and Aaron Rodgers
in fourth place.
And Aaron Rodgers' Jets as well, too. So we got a lot that we'll be talking about.
Will not finish in fourth place.
They will not finish in fourth place. So that's spoiler alert, but that'll be who we're talking about next week. Then after that, we're going to go through the North and then the South. And then our final episode is going to be the playoff runs, the Super Bowl, as well as some award recaps. So we got a lot of fun episodes coming forward. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts too. So that way you're up to date and you don't miss an episode. If you're on YouTube, feel free to subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, helps us out a lot, and it's free to you can unsubscribe at any point if you get sick of us, and you won't miss an episode. So we appreciate y'all joining us here for this first episode of our NFL preseason predictions episode. We got many more to come, and we will see you all again next week.